Chuck Norris stinks. Yep, that's the whole video. That's all I need to say. It's time to stop celebrating Chuck Norris as the ultimate badass, when that honor should go to either Dolph Lundgren or Jean-Claude Van Damme. Forget about Chuck Norris facts. What about Dolph Lundgren facts? Lundgren fact number 1. In May 2009, 3 burglars broke into Lundgren's home and tied up his wife and threatened her. When they looked at the family portrait, they saw that Dolph Lundgren was the patriarch of the house and immediately fled the house because they didn't want to get their asses kicked by him. Now it's time for a Jean-Claude Van Damme fact. When Steven Seagal, everyone's favorite pregnant martial artist, boasted that for years that he could kick Jean-Claude Van Damme's ass. According to Sylvester Stallone, Van Damme and Steven Seagal by chance were at a house party in Miami. This is when Van Damme offered Seagal the opportunity to fight him. Seagal brought up every single excuse in the book, left the party to go to a nightclub. Van Damme followed him into said nightclub and he still refused to fight him. Because Jean-Claude Van Damme eats jobbers like him for breakfast, and Steven Seagal eats cheeseburgers. Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme have not been in a lot of movies, but easily their most well-known film together is Universal Soldier. Universal Soldier is your simple story. Scott loses his shit and kills his own men as well as innocent civilians. Deveraux tries to protect said innocent civilians and fails miserably, and Deveraux and Scott end up killing each other. Their bodies are found by another squad where they're frozen for decades and then are brought back to life to serve the purposes of the government. You know, everyday simple stuff. There's nothing that can really be said about the Universal Soldier movie that hasn't really been said already. It's decent. If you go into it with the right mindset, you'll have fun. It was never meant to be deep, it's just a showcase of Van Damme's insane athleticism. Although, if you are going to watch this film, you're going to watch it for one reason alone. Dolph Lundgren. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme, but Lundgren completely outacts him in this entire movie. The guy is absolutely insane and he completely devours the scenery. He's a pleasure to watch.
Can I have a word with you?
I'm all ears.
So, it's time to celebrate Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren by not talking about them and instead talking about the shitty Universal Soldier sequels instead. Kill me. Before we continue, you're probably thinking to yourself right now, why are you talking about 3 movies that you know are going to be shit? 2 of them are unofficial sequels to a 90s movie with none of the actors from the original that actually made it watchable in the first place, and they were made for TV. We know they're bad, so why talk about them?
Maybe be funny.
In all seriousness, I'm not expecting to find any hidden gems here, but hey, maybe they'll be so bad that they're funny. I mean, surely right, films as bad as this have got to at least make you laugh at one point. So let's start off with Universal Soldier 2, Brothers in Arms. Oh yes, of course, you have to start off with some nostalgia, don't you? The film starts off using stock footage from the first move... Oh no. Oh dear God, no. What is this? Universal Soldier on Wish.com? No. Instead, it's a recreation of the final battle in Universal Soldier. But hey though, at least the action's decent. Just kidding, it's shit. What is he doing? Is he kicking his shins? Is he telepathically headbutting him? Is he kicking him up the arse? Okay, this joke isn't funny anymore. I need to find an alternative.
You fellas have a lot of growing up to do, I'll tell you that. Ridiculous.
Perfection.
Meta. I hate meta.
Okay, let's be generous here. This is a made-for-TV film from Canada. I'm gonna try and cut it some slack here. It obviously is not going to have the budget that the first film did, which is understandable, but I'm going to make fun of it anyway, because I am an armchair critic. Deveraux defeats Scott in an epic battle, and he reunites with his parents and the reporter Veronica. Brothers in Arms picks up where the first movie left off. Veronica Roberts is being framed for killing her work colleague in a drug deal gone bad. As you can imagine, Jean-Claude Van Damme is not in this film, so instead, Luc Deveraux is played by Matt Battaglia. At the time, Battaglia was a former football linebacker turned actor, and in all fairness, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt here, mainly because he is supposed to be playing a character that has no emotion. You are going to immediately realize that the lighting here is shit, but again, I'm going to give this the benefit of the doubt because this is a direct-to-TV movie in all fairness. The budget for the Universal Soldier program has been cut for obvious reasons, but behind the scenes, there's a group of mercenaries working to get the program up and running again. One of the main villains in this film is security consultant Otto Mauser, who is actually played by Gary Busey. Oh, don't get your hopes up. Gary Busey is given absolutely no material to work with in this film.
Start over. Call my name like you just got here.
Gary Busey and his jobber henchmen kill several soldiers and turn them into Universal Soldiers. The villain's main goal in this movie is to retrieve the original Universal Soldier, that being Luc Deveraux, and to silence Veronica Roberts from making the story public as she's a reporter. Gary Busey is taking orders from an unknown man who is shown to be working from the shadows. It's pretty obvious who this guy is if you've seen the mustache and his cigar, but just for shits and giggles, let's pretend we don't know who he is.
You are a soldier. You will obey them.
Yes, sir.
I want no loose ends.
Did the editor just trip over his own shoelaces? What was that? Huh, must be my imagination.
What's to understand? Just do it.
Oh, okay, so they've decided to ship these two characters together. As generic as the first Universal Soldier film is, and I'm not going to compare it to the sequels because, in all fairness, it's not that great of a movie either, but I do like how there's no romantic relationship between the two main characters. Why is this? He's dead. It's a bit creepy. The idea of bringing someone back from the dead just to shag them is a lot like that Black Mirror episode. The relationship between Luke and Veronica in the first movie is more like a friendship. Well, okay, Van Damme probably did clap her cheeks when the cameras weren't rolling, but that's not the point. The point is, it was not a romantic relationship and felt more platonic. Just like dirty work. I understand this may come off as a very minor nitpick, but it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the dreadful acting and dialogue that we have to see.
Joke?
Yeah, joke. You know, it's something that makes you laugh. You remember? Ha ha.
Ha ha.
Let's try it.
Turn it off.
Knock knock.
Turn it off!
Why didn't you answer?
I know it's you at the door.
Pretend it isn't me.
Who's there?
What about you? If you two are gonna have any kind of future together, you're gonna have to get out of this mess you're in.
We're not sure.
Is my son the only evidence you have?
He's all I need. It's okay. He's safe here for now.
You know what, I will criticize this romance a lot in this movie, but the father is actually quite wholesome here. He doesn't seem to give a shit that his son has just returned from 30 years after believing he was dead. He just wants him to have a girlfriend. As Luke and Veronica are planning their next moves, Luke decides to leave the house and Veronica has no idea where he's gone. It turns out that the reason why Luke left is because there's a device implanted into him where he's recalled to his original creators. Veronica goes out to search for Deveraux. However, before she leaves, she talks to Deveraux's parents and they actually reveal that they also had an older son called Eric Deveraux, who also was in the army and was also declared missing in action. Veronica Roberts tracks Luc Deveraux down to a train station and she interrogates one of the staff members.
What happened? He suckered me into trading this thing for a ticket. Total piece of junk. He doesn't even tell time.
Wait, hold on a minute here. How was Deveraux able to convince this guy to get a train ticket for free? Especially when you consider the fact that not only is Luc Deveraux being recalled, therefore his programming has been reset, but he still talks like a robot who doesn't understand emotion. How dumb is this guy? This guy definitely works for Arriva Trains Wales. Veronica is able to persuade this moron into telling her what train he took, because this is the most incompetent employee you'll ever see in a company. Deveraux for some reason poses for Vogue when he suddenly has a memory when he was younger of his older brother. Even though Luc Deveraux is being recalled and his memory has been wiped, he still has memories of his brother.
My name's Annie.
GR44.
Cool. Are you a rap singer?
I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is, this line is kind of funny. The bad news is, it's one of the best lines in the entire movie, said from a character that we'll never ever see again. After a pretty boring montage of Veronica following Luke and the most bizarre country music I think I've ever heard in my life. Veronica eventually tracks Luke down. This ship serves as a base for Universal soldiers.
I need your clothes, your gun, and your ID card. Screw you! Ah! I told you not to turn around.
Okay, I will throw this film a bone here. It's very easy to nitpick and say, why is there no security on this base? But in all fairness, one of the scientists actually does say that they have limited resources, and even he's frustrated by the lack of security, so I guess they do acknowledge it. And in all fairness, at least Veronica Roberts is actually doing something useful. While on the boat, Veronica discovers the reason why Luc Deveraux went AWOL, as there's a recall device in his head, and this also has erased his memory. She also discovers a tracking device that is up his ass, and then objectifies him.
Okay, so he's got a VCR up his ass. He still is a nice butt.
And look, I don't want to hear people saying that I'm woke for not liking this, because this is a man who's been dead for 30 years, and once again, does not understand humor to the point that if you told him that the sky was green, he'd believe you. As Veronica searches for Deveraux on the boat, she makes a shocking discovery. Remember when I mentioned Eric Deveraux? Well, it turns out that Deveraux is actually alive and well. He was taken hostage, however, he was not able to be converted into a Universal soldier, as he retained most of his free will. Eric Deveraux is actually played by Jeff Wincott. Wait a minute. What is this? Facial expressions? Physical charisma?
Hey, buddy. Can you tell me where I can find the latrine? I haven't taken a piss in almost 40 years.
Funny lines? Guys, I think we've just come across a good performance here.
So what's the story between you and Luke?
Oh, nothing. I'm just trying to romance your brother that died 30 years ago in the Vietnam War. You know, taking small steps.
How is he?
He's a jigsaw puzzle. I pulled this off GR44's black box. Koto?
Wow, this looks like shit. They could even get the real actors. Gary Busey discovers that Eric Deveraux is free along with Veronica, but they're captured again pretty quickly. This is when they're brought back to Luc Deveraux. As soon as Luc Deveraux sees his brother, his memories come flooding back, and he's the old Deveraux that we knew and loved.
What do you want me to do?
What the hell was that? Was that a double zoom in? Did somebody forget to cut that out? There are very strange edits in this film where for some reason they do the same cut, but it's like jumbled together. It doesn't even look good aesthetically, it just looks like someone accidentally forgot to cut it out. To clarify, I'm not a filmmaker and I'm too stupid to understand the process, but the best way I can describe these edits is that it's completely amateurish, and I would say it would be something you'd see in a student film, but that's an insult to student films. Luc Deveraux snaps out of it, and he saves Veronica and Eric. Unfortunately, Luke and Eric's reunion is shorter than a Hugh Edwards suspended sentence, and Gary Busey kidnaps Eric again. Eric! Yeah, do you remember when I said earlier I was going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt in terms of his acting? I take it back, he sucks. Look, the jokes obviously write themselves because the Universal soldiers in this film look so stupid with those headsets on, but in all fairness, they look dumb in the original movie as well. I have to nitpick here. What is the point of him being recalled if he can literally just see someone that he recognizes and he's suddenly back to normal?
You said he wouldn't be a problem.
He's not supposed to be. Unless seeing his brother brought back a memory we couldn't repress.
This is not supposed to happen twice.
I see. How do you prevent this from happening again? Actually design them specifically so this doesn't happen again? Maybe? Since Veronica discovered earlier there's a tracking device in Luc Deveraux, she needs to take it out of him. I bet you say that to all the Universal soldiers you meet. Because Luc Deveraux's memory has been wiped, this has actually put a stop to the romance between him and Veronica. In all fairness, I'm completely for, because again, the fact that Veronica decided to flirt with a dead person is not romantic. It's just a bit weird. Suddenly, Gary Busey gives Luc Deveraux a transmission saying that he's kidnapped Eric Deveraux and he'll only give him back if he trades him in for Veronica Roberts. So, like the heroes that they are, Deveraux and Veronica steal an RV that someone had just got married in. What great guys. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker who will actually play a role later. I wish he didn't.
The last time I fell in love, I really took a bath.
Incoming aircraft. It's show and tail time. Let's go.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, the reason why Otto has been recruiting so many Universal soldiers is actually because he wants to sell them to a wealthy Asian client. And boy, are these people fucking morons.
These are your arms, Mr. Sung.
What is a Universal soldier, Mr. Mazer?
Allow me to demonstrate. May I please use your weapon?
Oh sure, Mr. Crazy Man. I'm definitely gonna give you my gun in an arms deal. And when you're dealing with a man who looks like this, what could possibly go wrong? What an incredible invention this is. Bullets! I'm going to throw my gun away now. I really hope nothing happens.
I take it we're engaged. Things just got worse. Annul the marriage.
I thought we had something special.
You really didn't think I would do business with this piece of shit? On second thought, bury him. They're too stupid to bring back to life. Hardware comes back to base. They won't need it anymore.
Oh my god. They did it. They did it, guys. Gary Busey had a good line. Finally! Something!
They tell me to turn left, and I turn left, and now I'm here in the middle of nowhere.
It's a trap. Check it out.
Why, yes, it definitely is a trap, Busey, but you're still gonna fall for it because your character is just as dumb as those terrorists you just dealt with. Luke and Veronica's plan? Just sneak off the RV when no one is looking. Well, that was easy. With Gary Busey distracted, Luke and Veronica save Eric Deveraux. But how will the gang be able to get back on the RV without being detected? Oh, they just slowly sneak on. You know, by the way, considering Gary Busey is supposed to be playing a bloodthirsty, cutthroat businessman, he seems very lenient with this driver that he's never seen before in his entire life. Especially when you consider the fact that he specifically asked for Luke and Veronica to come alone, so why would this driver be here otherwise? But whatever. You know, I kind of appreciate the storyline of Luc Deveraux trying to become a human being again and learning how to laugh and feel emotion again, but it doesn't really work when he's smarter than every single person in this movie.
He suckered me into trading this thing for a ticket.
Deveraux is supposed to be the robot who can't feel emotion and literally doesn't understand humor, yet every single character in this movie except him and Veronica are as dumb as a bag of bricks. Luke and Eric catch up on old times, and Eric even teaches Luke how to catcall. This is usually the part of the video where I pretend to be angry at a TV movie that no one will ever see in their life, but thankfully for all of us, this part of the video was actually muted. I think it's because of copyright, but I'm not complaining. Luke, Veronica, and Eric take refuge at a bar, but Gary Busey catches up with them. Eric Deveraux fends off one of the Universal soldiers, but is killed in the gunfire. It's such a good thing to see that the only actor that has any sort of charisma in this movie is dead now. Thanks for that. Gary Busey chases Veronica Roberts. Meanwhile, Luke goes one-on-one with one of the Universal soldiers. Ah yes, let's have Gary Busey in a Universal Soldier film and not have him fight Luc Deveraux. Genius. Oh wow, that's a very cool scene of Gary Busey falling through glass. Let's not film it, I guess. Are these guys fighting underwater? Why is this so slow? There's some great action choreography here. Punch, kick, punch, kick, punch, kick.
It's time to take out the garbage.
It's time to take out the garbage. My brother died in front of me. Luc Deveraux takes out the garbage and kills Gary Busey. Also, I love how Gary Busey came with 2 Universal soldiers and one of them was killed because of gunfire, even though they're invincible to that. After the fighting, however, Luc and Veronica mourn the death of Eric Deveraux.
Luke, please, listen to me.
Knock, knock. You're supposed to say who's there.
What?
After his life.
What?
You told me that.
Knock, knock. What? Luke buries his brother and he swears to get the people who did this. But who is behind all this? Who is the ultimate mastermind behind this scheme? Well, it's none other than Bert Reynolds? He was literally nominated for an Academy Award a year prior to this movie. Now, at first, you would think that maybe the reason Bert Reynolds was in this movie because he wanted a quick paycheck, but this actually isn't the case. Apparently, Bert Reynolds was friendly with Matt's father, Camelo, with whom he played college football. The only reason Matt actually got the role is because he came to the production's offices on his own initiative and asked to read for it. So in ways, Bert Reynolds became an unexpected mentor to Matt. It's actually a pretty nice and wholesome story, and a very good gesture from Bert Reynolds. I mean, he sucks at acting, don't get me wrong, but it's still a nice story to tell. Guys, this movie stinks. I need to find something positive out of it. The mental image of Matt Battaglia coming to the production's offices to read for it and standing outside is also kind of a funny image to me. Hello, this is Matt Battaglia. Knock, knock. Here's my fist. My god, this guy's amazing. You've got the role. We're making you Luc Deveraux in the new Universal Soldier film. Congratulations. What's an audition? Weirdly enough, Brothers in Arms tries to be sentimental and tries to be a real tearjerker at the end of the film. But guess what? When one of your main characters dies and your main character says this...
Knock, knock. You're supposed to say who's there.
It's very hard to be emotional. I do hate being harsh on Matt, I really do. At the end of the day, he was never going to live up to the same name as Jean-Claude Van Damme. But I ask you, if you're going to make a movie that is designed to be a sequel to a very well-known Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, but can't get Jean-Claude Van Damme to come back, then could you get an actor that could maybe, you know, replicate his moves? There's no helicopter kick, there's no spin kick, he doesn't even do the splits.
His groin! His groin!
And to add insult to injury, the actor who plays Eric Deveraux looks more like Jean-Claude Van Damme than Matt does. But you may be wondering, this is an action movie, why are you being so critical of a plot? I mean, after all, you don't see action movies for the plot, you see it for the action, right? Why am I talking about the story in a Universal Soldier movie? Well, guess what? When the movie is 90% story, and the action is 10%, and said 10% is garbage, then that's a huge problem. And believe me, when I say I don't like nitpicking, I really don't like nitpicking. But again, when 90% of this film is storyline, then yes, I am going to nitpick it. From one bad film to another, it's time we move on to the next installment. So these two films were released in the same year as each other, so it's a lot like the Matrix sequels. But bad. Ah yes, you gotta love old VHS tapes and their cover arts, don't you? Matt Battaglia looks like Lenny at the end of Mice and Men. Jeff Wincock looks like he just woke up from a 10-year coma. And Bert Reynolds looks like he wishes he was dead. Which he now is. Let's get this over with. It's time to move on to Universal Soldier 3. Universal Soldier Unfinished Business. Before jumping into Universal Soldier 3, I have to be honest with you. This film is insanely boring. Do you remember when I said in the last movie there was about 10% action and 90% story? Well, Universal Soldier 3 is more 95% story and 5% action, which would be okay if said 95% wasn't horrible. So in order to summarize what Universal Soldier Unfinished Business is like, I'm going to read this blurb that I found on Letterboxd. My dad worked on this movie when I was 8 or 9 years old. He got a call at 12 midnight that he was needed back on set, and because he hadn't prepared for that, he had no choice but to bring me along and let me sleep in his van while he went back to work. After 2 hours, he was sent home when he realized they didn't actually need him. For the longest time, I thought this had happened when he worked on RoboCop Prime Directives, but today he confirmed with me that it was indeed this piece of trash. His other tidbit of information was that Bert Reynolds showed up drunk to set every single day, and let me tell you, it shows. It is kind of funny how on one hand Bert really wanted Matt to break into acting, so he did the movie to help him out, but on the other hand, he clearly fucking hated it and had to get pissed every day. Bert Reynolds, for some reason in this movie, sometimes has an Irish accent.
You better wake up now, son. This is about the well-being of the American people.
But sometimes he doesn't.
Yes, indeed. I'm told that you're in charge of security over at Dover Air Force Base.
That's correct, sir.
Well, then I need a favor.
What's that, sir?
I need you to die.
He probably forgot about said Irish accent because he was pissed. Universal Soldier 3 kicks off from where the last movie stopped. Luke and Veronica go to Canada to find Veronica's ex-boyfriend, Charles. They're here to enlist Charles in their efforts to uncover the Universal Soldier program to the public.
Charles.
Ah yes, because that slow motion shot was completely necessary and definitely was not done on accident whatsoever. I'm sorry, what is this? They clearly must have forgot to edit this out, because what on earth are they doing here? The edits in this movie are more confusing than my accent. Oh my god, I figured it out, guys. Bert Reynolds is the editor! Suddenly, however, mercenaries take over the hotel and take Veronica and Richard as hostages. The main terrorist is an obnoxious woman who says some of the worst dialogue you'll ever hear in your life.
Anyone who does not obey does not get dessert. www.geek.
Veronica is forced at gunpoint to tell the public the demands of the terrorists. Unfortunately, though, Charles is immediately killed afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have taken control of the convention center. These exploiters of the world economy, ruthless brokers of the information currency, now belong to us.
Sorry. I didn't quite catch that. Could you speak a bit louder, please? You know, louder than a whisper? And, in a very shocking plot twist, it turns out Veronica actually is a Universal Soldier herself. Oh, wait. Never mind. She's just a shit actress. Never mind, forget what I said.
Operator, I'm trying to reach area code 504.
Operator, I like the music that was playing. How do I turn on? Now, you'd think at first that these mercenaries had something to do with Bert Reynolds and wanted to frame Veronica. Nope. It just happens to be a massive coincidence, because the plot wanted it. Luc Deveraux crashes the party and he saves Veronica from the terrorists. Also, I really hope you enjoyed the shitty action scenes in the last movie, because there's more of them here, where you can't see anything due to the close edits. What the hell is this song? Oh, thank God she's dead. She was so obnoxious. I really hope she doesn't show up again later. I agree. It is just trash. Because of this situation, Veronica Roberts is a fugitive. Wait, hold up. I thought she was already a fugitive. The writers probably did this to make sure that Veronica doesn't come back to Canada, but considering how Bert Reynolds works for the CIA in this movie, surely wouldn't he make sure that Veronica was wanted nearly everywhere in the world, not just in America? Turns out, however, that Bert Reynolds is a little bit Universal Soldier crazy, because remember those mercenaries earlier that took those hostages? Well, he's using their dead bodies now as Universal Soldiers. Oh wow, a female Universal Soldier. I can't wait to make a clickbait title in this video and accuse the film of being woke.
And now they're making Ghostbusters with only women. What's going on?
It turns out that they're creating a clone of a Universal Soldier. We'll find out much later who that is. I will actually give some credit here. This idea is used later in Universal Soldier's Regeneration and Day of Reckoning, so this might have actually been some inspiration to those two films. But we're not going to talk about those yet. Deveraux and Veronica rush back to his parents' house, but it's too late, because they've been killed in a suspicious house fire. Veronica tries to comfort Luc Deveraux, but Deveraux passes out. This is because Deveraux needs to recharge. Yes, you heard that right. Just in case you haven't seen the original Universal Soldier, the soldiers overheat, so they have to go into a bathtub full of ice in order to recharge. I would criticize Brothers in Arms for completely forgetting about this plot point, but in all fairness, it's a pretty damn stupid one, and I wish they did. Just like the headsets, it was stupid in the original movie, it's stupid here. Luke and Veronica track down a doctor called Chris Scragger, but it turns out that Bert Reynolds is listening on the other line, and it's a setup. Reynolds purposely sent Deveraux and Veronica to a hospital where he's gonna send his Universal Soldiers to take them out. You know, for a movie as boring as this, we can only be grateful for the actually entertaining characters we do see once in a while. Take, for example, this one-armed man, who easily has some of the best lines in the film.
Let me tell you something, Angel. Guys with one arm, they make the best lovers.
Dr. Gregor had previously worked on the Universal Soldier program, and Deveraux tracks him to a hospital when he discovers that he's not a doctor, but is in fact a patient, as he suspiciously has Alzheimer's now.
Why? He doesn't have Alzheimer's.
You're right. I erased his memory.
Andy, the fuck you doing? Put the gun down.
Shut up. Now we're all gonna leave here, nice and quiet.
Catch!
Thanks for the hand.
They'll just bring me back to life.
What's he talking about?
It means that he's a Universal Soldier. Have you learned this by now?
No! GR-83 just killed a civilian and a friendly.
Fucking criminals.
Criminals and actual soldiers seem to have very different motivations, where soldiers will protect the innocent, with the exception of Andrew Scott, because once again he lost his mind in the first movie. But then, when you get bloodthirsty criminals like you did at the beginning of Unfinished Business, then they're bound to run riot.
Shit! I'm not gonna make it, just go. That's an order, soldier!
Sorry, I forgot to reload. We have to stop Bert Reynolds, guys. They've been killing all the entertaining characters in these movies. Also, isn't it just a bit sad that I cared about this one-armed man rather than the two main characters that this film is about? After escaping from the hospital, Deveraux is able to capture one of the Universal Soldiers that was after him. Luke is able to reprogram the captured Universal Soldier and looks at the footage that's been recorded in his hard drive. It turns out that Bert Reynolds and his Universal Soldiers are going to raid an Air Force base. There's a plane landing there with gold, and Bert Reynolds seeks to steal it. Bert will use this gold to fund the Universal Soldier program.
How long before you're ready to fly this plane out of here, Captain?
Should be fuel and airborne within 15 minutes, General.
Hey, I hope you like my new gun. It's a silenced pistol without the silencer. As the evil Universal Soldiers raid the base, everything is going well. That is until Luke, Veronica, and their new Universal Soldier friend save the day. And for some reason, Deveraux is now wearing a turtleneck sweater. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but I don't really understand why some of the Universal Soldiers are taken out with gunfire. I think he's dead. While Veronica is being chased by the unnecessary jump cuts, there's something worse behind her. It's Geek.com lady, and she beats the shit out of her. It's nearly over for Veronica, but thankfully Luke saves her, and he kills the Geek.com lady for a second time.
Have you ever danced with the devil? I got you stuck on my realness. Y'all raise your hands. Tell them if you can feel this. You live your life on that level. Are you a rebel? Now you better dance with the devil.
I seriously have no idea what these rap songs are. They sound like something out of a fever dream. What, am I losing my mind here?
Hello, baby mamas and white people. It's your boy, GR44, and I've got something to say. Knock knock. There's a moose loose in the hoose.
The clone in question is none other than Eric Deveraux. Oh, and again, don't get your hopes up. Now that he's a Universal Soldier, he's lost all of his charisma. I hate this movie. However, just like Brothers in Arms, as soon as Eric Deveraux sees his brother Luc Deveraux, his program is reset, and he's the Eric Deveraux that we all know and love. My god, this is the third time a Universal Soldier has overridden his programming. We've tried absolutely nothing and we're out of ideas. This is yet another short-lived reunion, however, because Eric self-destructs.
No! Eric! You bastards!
It looks like he needs a hand. Wait, that doesn't work, does it?
After witnessing his brother's death for a second time, Luc Deveraux tracks down Bert Reynolds. Wow, I'm actually quite surprised Bert Reynolds left his room. They must have either used a bottle of whiskey as bait, or told him that Marlon Brando was waiting outside for him. As Bert Reynolds spills the beans on the program, it turns out Veronica Roberts is recording him, and they're live.
Don't move.
Cut. You're gonna have to do that again, Bert. The cameraman wasn't looking. The charges against Veronica are dropped, and Luc Deveraux and Veronica Roberts plan their future together. But in the back of their heads, they'll always know that evil is one step ahead.
How are you feeling?
Excellent.
Bert, you okay there, but you look a little bit worse for wear there.
First order of business, sir?
Make the sleepers.
Wait a minute. Sleeper agents? Bert Reynolds undead? Okay, now you've got my interest. I'm really interested to see what they do, and the film's over. Great. Most of this film, no joke, is just filler. The hostile takeover of the hotel goes on for way too long, and as I said previously, I could understand if the criminals were sent by Burt Reynolds himself, but they weren't. They just so happened to take over this hotel. And also, do you remember when I said that Deveraux had to recharge? Well, there's a segment of the movie where Deveraux and Veronica are stuck in a freezer and the police are after them because they've been locked inside. This is basically just to fill up time. There are also weird bonding scenes between one of the doctors and the clone that's growing up. Again, it's just to show that the clone grows up to become Eric Deveraux. There's also a very strange scene where Burt Reynolds watches footage of Adolf Hitler, and it looks like he's about to fall asleep. What am I watching here? The pacing in both movies is pretty bad, but I would actually argue it's even worse than Unfinished Business because, once again, it just feels like that most of the plot happens coincidentally, and again, most of it is just filler, with even less action. The acting in Brothers in Arms and Unfinished Business is bad, but without a shadow of a doubt, the worst actress here is Chandra West. She has absolutely no emotion whatsoever, and she's supposed to be a normal human and isn't a universal soldier. When Matt Battaglia has more emotion than you, you know you've done something wrong there. And as you can imagine, Matt and Chandra have absolutely zero chemistry with each other. Strangely enough, this film reminds me a lot of The X-Files. I mean, think about it. Noir, conspiracies, sleeper agents, a couple that you don't know if they're going to get together or not. It's The X-Files. But really, really bad. Considering how Unfinished Business ends on a huge cliffhanger, it feels like these two films were supposed to be pilots for a failed TV show that never happened. But unfortunately, just like a star sign on a Tinder profile, it means absolutely nothing. Because when you have acting that is so bad it could rival a Kenny Omega promo,
69 me done! 69 me...
completely forced dialogue, and editing that could be best described as being schizophrenic at best, then your efforts don't mean anything. These two movies commit a fatal sin. They're boring. Keep this in mind. These two films hint at Gary Busey, Burt Reynolds, and Bill fucking Clinton becoming Universal Soldiers, and it's still boring. How does one shit the bed so creatively here? Well, it's time for one more movie, and it's Universal Soldier: The Return. I would love to say that maybe this film would be better because it has a much bigger budget and was released in cinemas, but you know just as well as me that this film also stinks. So, let's get it over with. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that video, then please subscribe and don't share the video because I'm actually very scared of Matt Battaglia and I really don't want him seeing this video. Please, all that is a joke. Don't hurt me.
Knock knock.
Oh no, he's here.
You're supposed to say who's there.